end of this video, you're going to understand who owns the IP when you use guest bloggers, how to change that, and what things to put in place if you want to change the default rules, and some alternatives to asking for IP ownership when working with guest bloggers and contributors. So here we go. So first, who owns the IP when you're working with a guest blogger? Let's say a guest blogger writes a really great post, or even a guest vlogger on your video show creates really great content that you publish under your brand. Who owns that content? Well, by default, the guest blogger owns that content, unless you have something in writing that is signed, of course. The author of that creative work, that post, owns that content. Now, if you wanted to change that, you could enter into what's called a work for hire IP assignment agreement, and I will link to one in the notes for this video. But essentially, that type of agreement says, I, content creator, grant all of the rights to this post, this work product, to you, blog owner. Now, depending on the platform, depending on the guest blogger, they may not want to give up all rights to their blog post. So there are some alternatives that you can consider depending on your relationship. The first is first publication rights. Essentially, if you don't ask for IP ownership, it's reasonable to ask for first publication, meaning you are the one that gets to be the first to publish this post or this video, and it's reasonable to ask for a certain period of exclusivity, a certain amount of time where you are the only one that publishes this content on the internet, and the guest blogger has to wait 3 months, 6 months, a year before they can republish it elsewhere, like Medium or like their own blog or platform. Second, let's say this is stellar content. And for the stellar content, you, the blog owner, have provided this great platform and this great audience that has caused this post or this video to go viral. You, as the blogger platform owner, may not ask for ownership, but to the extent that this one post turns into something more, maybe it becomes the catalyst for an e-course, or maybe it becomes part of a print publication, like a coffee table book, or another type of written work. Well, you can require, as the blog owner, the platform owner, attribution, such as this post originally appeared on such and such a blog at such and such a date and is reprinted by permission, or simply stating that it was originally published on your blog. And then something else to consider when using guest bloggers or contributors. There's the question of what happens if that post, that video, that contribution is infringed. Well, this is why some kind of contributor agreement is a good idea, right? Because you want to make clear who owns the IP to that contribution, but also who has the right to enforce it. If there's an infringer, without a written document, there might be kind of a question of, okay, who sends the cease and desist letter, the blog or the content provider, the guest blogger? So a good contribution agreement will speak to that. So I hope this gives you an idea of things to think through in terms of who owns the IP when using a guest blogger or guest contributor. Some alternatives that you can ask for or discuss, like first publication, and also thinking about attribution and requiring credit if that content turns into something more. And then, of course, thinking about infringement and who has the right to enforce when someone has copied that guest contribution. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Get 4 things you can do right now to protect your business online. Just go to spear-ip.com/challenge, and once you sign up, you will receive 1 thing per week for 4 weeks delivered to your inbox.